Hi, this is Stephen Brower. This is part two because I realized I was rushing at the end and I may have missed a couple of points. So the last one that I was butchering before, the last two I was butchering. One is when and where a transaction needs to be done. As for the when, the online processing, the idea that it can be done immediately, that the user doesn't have to wait for the acknowledgement that the process is taking place. The other thing is batch processing, where those things can be run at night. And sometimes when you have something like a mainframe, its forte is running these large processes, and sometimes they will run overnight while there isn't as much interactive demand of the computer during the day. And then the what else can be done when a transaction is processed. That's when I started to make the reference to the point of sale. And with the point of sale, as soon as an item is purchased, the inventory can be updated immediately. And by immediately updating the inventory, we're not only processing the transaction, but we're taking care of what the inventory is later. We're taking care of what is in inventory, which sometimes will still have to occur within an organization. So if you are going to be updating the inventory, is that the inventory still has to be checked periodically. Things can fall off the shelf and break. Literally, they can walk. There could be other reasons why what the system says we have and what's on the shelf may vary. The book spends a good number of pages going over a number of network ideas. So things like the topology of the network, ring and star and mesh, and a number of different models that are used, LANs, WANs, and automobiles. Sorry, that last part was a joke, but LANs and WANs. And then some of the technology that's used, such as routers and switches. Within those, that's addressed. And part of the reason why it's also being addressed, as I did make the comment earlier, is that if the network requirements for a new system are beyond what the current networking abilities of the company can handle, that network may have to be updated. So it's something that needs to be considered, is the impact that the new system, is going to have on the communication network that the business has. If they never had an image processing system before, and suddenly they're putting a whole bunch of images across the lines, that's something that can have a drain on the routers and the switches, and maybe they have to be upgraded to ones that can handle higher throughput. So the final thing that the book gets into, and I'm going off on a tangent with the slide here, has to do with the system design spec, the specification of the system. And the reason why I'm listing these two here, which are a little bit different, is if we're going out of the company to get some work done, that design specification can become a request for a quote. In other words, if we completely design the system, this is exactly what we're looking for, then we can put out, here's a design spec, and companies will go and bid and say what it would cost to implement what we're asking for. And let's say there's only part of a system that we're going to go out of the house for. Like, maybe there's 4 pieces to a system, 3 are going to be developed in-house, 1 they're going to go out for. Then it might just be have a request for quote for that 1-part system. What an RFP usually is, the design has not been done. We don't have a design. And so what we're asking someone is to propose what it would cost to design and then implement a system. So that would be sort of the difference here. But what the book gets into are, for the system design specification, what are the components that that document will have. If you pick up a different book, there will be a number of overlap between them. But one of the key things, there's an abstract at the very beginning, and there is the possibility that some higher levels of management won't read beyond the abstract. But all the other parts of the document, what are the components, the environment, where the requirements and the costs, that would be worked into that document, so the design spec as well. So again, this was the slides here. Sorry for that little glitch. The slides here that I used are different than what is in Canvas, the publisher resources. Hopefully you were looking at the publisher slides as I was going through this, because there's some things I was trying to explain. But I think that in a nutshell, okay, well, it's a large nutshell, but that's chapter 10.